Hi there and welcome to our first lesson in Java. Okay, so you should already have watched the video where how to set up Eclipse, how to set up the proper JDK. Alright, so do not progress onto this video unless you have watched the first video, which is the video about installing Eclipse and installing the JDK. Now, if you have that done, you should have these two files here. Test and test2, right? There's nothing too complicated in there. Now, we are going to create our first Java project in this lesson, all right? Now, but before we do that, we're going to set up something called a working set. A working set is quite simply just a folder where we're going to put in a few of our Java projects into, all right? So, the first thing you need to do, you need to go up to this little icon up here, okay? So, it's this icon here, three little dots, all right? So, go up to that icon with three little dots, you click on it. Now you will see top level elements, all right? I want you to make sure it's clicked on working sets, okay? Clicked on working sets. So, we then go into this blank area here, and I right click, and I click on new, and click on other, and then I type WRK, so you see Java working sets. Click on that guy, click on next, okay? So I'm going to call it chapter 1, all right? So chapter 1 is going to be the more basic stuff, then chapter 2 will be more complicated, and so on and so forth, all right? So we're going to have a number of Java projects inside this guy here. So we click on finish. All right, so now we see a working set called chapter 1. Okay, there it is. Now we're going to be placing all of our initial Java projects inside this folder. Okay, so just clear off everything there. Now, so I am going to right click on this guy here, click on new. Now Java project might be there. If it isn't, you just click on other, and I type Java, and you can see Java project. Click on that guy there, click on next, and we've done this already. So Java 14, fine, don't have to do anything else. Working sets chapter 1. So I'm going to call this section 1.1. Okay, click on finish. Don't want a module name. Don't want a module inside it. All right, now, so chapter 1 is the working set. And the name of our first Java project is section 1.1. Okay, simple as that. Get rid of that. Now, so we now have so we just click on the little arrow there, and we are going to create something called a package. Now, a package is just like another folder inside there. Okay, it's not actually, but we'll say it's just another little folder. Okay, so section 1.1, com.android, and inside that we're going to have our Java project, our Java files. So click on new. Click on class, okay, click on public static void main, this guy down here, okay, oops, take out that guy, so that is what we want to have clicked, okay, public static void main, all right, and I'm going to call our class, which is in this box here, I'm going to call that M-A-I-N, main. You can call it anything you want, but I'm going to call it main. So I click on finish. Here is our public static void main. This is where all of our code is going to be put into. Now, all of our code is going to be between this closing bracket and this closing bracket. So the first couple of lectures, everything is going to be inside this curly bracket and this curly bracket. Okay, now this is something called the main method. We're going to be typing all our code inside there. All right. Now, so first thing we're going to do is something called comments. Now, comments are exactly as it says in the tin. They are ignored by Java. All right. So I could type in. First, we'll show you. You can put comments anywhere. All right. So this is a single line comment. Okay. The other type is this is a multiple line comment. You can put your comment over many lines. Now, to run our program, you press Control S on your keyboard, Control 11 on your keyboard. Now, there is nothing happening there. Why? Well, I just need to pause the video for a second. Okay, just have to do something else there. Now, so from the previous video, you should know that to save your project, you go Control S. To run your project, you go Control F11. All right. Now, so if I run it, we can see that nothing is happening. Okay, nothing is happening there. All right, blank. All right. Why? Because this guy's been ignored. All right. Now, what are comments for? Comments is for commenting your code. Everything you do in your code, you should put in a comment for it. Okay? You should put in a comment for your code. Now, comments can be put in anywhere. You can put in here, you can put in here, you can be put in here. All right? So, put in here. This is a single line comment. And this is a multi-line comment. This is a multi-line comment. Anything between the opening and closing lines, closing slash, okay, is considered a comment. For instance here, okay. So this comment goes from this point to this point. All right. So that is ignored by the compiler. Now, when you run a Java program, two things happen. It's compiled. Right? It's compiled. That means it's converted into noughts and ones because that's the only thing a computer understands. Then it's run. It's run by your machine. Okay, so it's compiled into noughts and ones, which that's the only thing the machine can understand, and then it's run. So the Java compiler ignores that, it ignores that, it ignores that, it ignores that. Okay? Now there's a third type of comment. The third type of comment is this guy. It's /**. Okay? Now the end slash is automatically put in. I'll show you that again. So if I'm making a multi-line comment, /**, enter. All right, so we can see everything between that guy and that guy is considered a comment. Okay, a multi-line comment is I press /*** and enter. Now, this is something called a Java doc comment. Now, what's a Java doc comment? We won't be using this really. So this is a multi-line comment that can be used to produce documents automatically. Now, what I mean by that is that there is commands you can run in Java, and you have a java.comments, let's say in all your files, you could have 50 files. Documentation will be automatically produced from that guy. When I mean documentation, I mean a Word file, I mean a text file. All right. Now, so these are ignored by the compiler. I run it again. Control S, Control F11, and we can see nothing. All right. Another way to run your code is by going up here. We click on the little. Oops, sorry, it's the wrong one. I'm pointing out. We click on this guy here. That runs it. So I do click on that guy. That will run it. Okay. If I want to save it before I run it, File. I go Save As. Or File. Control S. It's saved. Then I run it. There it is. Okay. Show you again. I go File. Save. Run. Or Control S. Control F11. Now there's nothing in here because I don't have any code that's actually running. All right. Now, so this is just going to be a brief recap of what we have done already. Now I just have another screen open here. That's why I'm looking to my left. So I'm going to put in another comment down here. Okay. So this is how we print our piece of text. All text has to be inside the opening and closing brackets. And all text has to be enclosed in double quotation marks. Every line of code has to finish the semicolon. Okay? Now, it's common across a lot of programming languages, C# and a few other ones like that, is that each line of valid code has to finish with the semicolon. Now, there is exceptions to it, but generally, when you write a line of code, you have to have a semicolon at the end. All right? Now, so I am going to print off some text. So the first thing we're going to do is system dot out dot println. Okay. Now you've seen stuff is automatically appearing there. That's the beauty of Eclipse. Eclipse will do a lot of the typing for you. But to start off with, we're going to type them all out manually. All right. So what is this guy? Now, by the way, you can put comments at, so you can see here, we have our command. Okay. This is actually a method, which we will be explaining what a method is in later lectures. Okay. All you need to know is what this command does is it prints off a line of text and then it goes on to the next line. All right. It's commonly pronounced println. Okay. Now, so inside the opening and closing braces, I'm going to put in some text. The text has to be surrounded by double quotation marks. So I'm going to say, hello there, my name is Noel. All right, so the method is called system.out.println. Okay, we have a piece of text inside here. A piece of text in Java is called a string. All right, so if you hear me talking about the term string, a string is a piece of text. So I won't be calling it a piece of text from now on. I will be calling it a string. So a string has to be surrounded by double quotation marks. Okay, it has to be inside the opening and the closing braces. And at the end of it, you have to have a semicolon. I'll go over that again. So this is our print statement. System.out.println. We just say println. Println has opening and closing braces. Inside the opening and closing braces, we have text. Now, text is called a string in Java. Strings have to be surrounded by double quotation marks. Okay, so we have our opening and closing braces. We have our double quotation marks. And inside our double quotation marks, we have our string. And at the end of the line, we have our semicolon. So every line of code, with a few exceptions, has to have a semicolon at the end. All right. Now you can put a comment at the end of a line as well. So you can put a comment here. This is our first bit of text, a string. Okay, so I'll just make this bit bigger. All right, now, so everything after the forward slashes is going to be a comment. Now I can put a comment in the middle of it here. If I did something like this, for instance, if I tried to put a comment in here, that means everything after that point would be commented out. Now when we get an error with Eclipse, it shows off this little red X here, and we get a little red underline. So Eclipse helps you with the errors. All right, helps you with the errors. So I don't want that comment there, so I take it out. Now it works fine. So I'm going to print it off. And there's hello, my name is Noel. I'm going to put in a second piece of text. System.out.println. I'm going to say this is our second line of text. Semicolon at the end. System.out.println. I'm going to say this is a third line of text, which in Java we call a string. Sorry, we call text in Java a string. Now, if I just do this, system.out.println, if I just do that, that's going to put in a blank line. Okay, that is going to be a blank line. All right, so that's going to be a blank line. Now we're going to do our next line of text, which is going to be, now I'm going to change this is small. I'm going to do something slightly different here. You won't notice on the screen, but so if I go SYSO, okay, now if I type so SYSO, then I go Control Space. You'll see it there on the screen. Control Space. It automatically types up system.out.println. You don't have to type it out. I will do that again. So I type up the word SYSO. I press Control on the keyboard. Space. It puts in the print statement automatically for you. Okay, I will produce a little video showing the keystrokes of that as well. All right, now, so I'm just going to put in the fourth line of text. Some text, here is a string on our fourth line of text. Okay, so this guy up here, put in a comment. This is a blank line of text. Nothing there. Okay, now, so I go Control S, Control F11. We can see that's that line of text. Hello there, my name is Noel. That's that line of text. This is our second line of text. This is our third line of text. We call text in Java a string. Then we have our fourth line of, so we have our blank line. So we have our blank line. Where's our blank line? That's our blank line. Okay, that's our blank line. And this one here, this is our fourth line of text. So we can see that our print statements and how they print off here. Okay, so nothing too difficult so far. Now, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to print off numbers. Okay, we are going to print off numbers. Just give me a second here. Now, so I'm going to put up a little statement up the top here, SYSO. So this is going to be printing numbers. So what we have up here, this is a string. Okay, how do you know it's a string? It's a string because it's surrounded by double quotation marks. All right, have to be inside the braces. It's a string. How do we know it's a string? Because it's surrounded by double quotation marks. So we are next going to use numbers. So I'm just going to print off a number. So I'm going to print off the number 45. Now, notice how there is no quotation marks around the number 45. Okay, so when you are printing off numbers, you do not use any sort of quotation marks. I'll put a comment above it there. When you, actually I make this a multi-line comment. Okay, so when you are using numbers in a print statement, you don't use double or single quotation marks around the number. Okay, so that will just print off the number 45. Now, Java, like most programming languages, automatically recognizes all the mathematical operators: multiplication, division, subtraction, addition. All right, so I'm going to print off 4 plus 5. What does that print off? That prints off 9. 4 plus 5 is 9. Okay, so I'll just print off here. We print off 9. We can do multiplication. 2. Now the multiplication symbol is, let's say it here, is shift 8. Okay, it's shift 8 on my keyboard, right? It's the star symbol. So 2 multiplied by 12, 24. Oops, too thin. Okay, so 2 multiplied by 12 is 24. Next one, we're going to do subtraction. I'll do 10 minus 4, and we can see the answer is 6. All right, now division is the next symbol you might be familiar with, so I'll just say it here. This will print off 24. Just print, comment every line of code. This will print off 6. Okay, now the final one is division. Now division looks like this. It's 12 / 4. Okay, so what is that? This is the division symbol. The division symbol. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. There it is, 3. Okay, now, so what am I going to say here? Java, so you need to comment everything. Java knows mathematical operators. That's what we call them. Okay, and will add, multiply, subtract, and divide when it finds these symbols with numbers. Now, the slightly complicating fact is that when you're using them with numbers, they operate exactly like you think they would act. However, some of these symbols, if they're used with strings, do different things. All right. This guy here also does something called concatenation. We won't be doing it yet. If you're just doing it with numbers, it acts like exactly you think it acts. Okay. So this one here in particular, the plus symbol can mean different things depending on where you're using it. If you use it with strings, which is text, you obviously can't add up two pieces of text. Okay? If you use them with numbers, they operate exactly as you think they operate. All right? Fine. No problem. Now, not alone does Java know what these symbols mean when you're talking about numbers, they also know precedence. Now, what's precedence? BOMDAS. Brackets, I can't remember BOMDAS. All right, we'll say brackets comes before multiplication and division. Multiplication, division comes before addition and subtraction. So we can give an example. So let's say we have, bear with me a minute. Yeah, so we have 2 plus 30 divided by 2. All right. Now, so precedence, multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction. So the answer is not 2 plus 30, which got 32 divided by 2. That's the wrong way to do it. You have to do the division part first. Okay, you have to do the division part first. So we get 30 divided by 2, which will give us 15. And we add 2 onto that, and we get 17. Now, the beauty of Java is we don't have to know those rules. It just works. To prove that it works, so I am going to print off another example here. So I'm going to go 2 plus 30 divided by 2. Okay, so 30 divided by 2 is 15. 15 plus 2 is 17. So I can print off 17, which we can see down here. All right, so let's say that again. Put it in here. Java knows the precedence of operators. So Java knows the precedence of operators in maths. Okay, brackets first, multiplication and division next, then addition and subtraction. So this gives us 30 divided by 2 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Okay, now, so we know how to print off strings, we know how to print off numbers. Now, a string is anything that is inside double quotation marks, including if you put numbers inside double quotation marks. Now, what do I mean by that? So if I come here and if I print out 2 multiplied by 12, okay, now that prints off 24, which we can see here. Fine. However, if I put double quotation marks around it, that is no longer the number 2 multiplied by the number 12. That is a string that contains those characters. Okay, that is a string that contains those characters, because get rid of screen when you put anything inside double quotes in a print statement, it becomes a string. So what happens when that becomes a string? It prints off 2 star 12. Okay, it prints off 2 star 12 because that's no longer excuse me, that's no longer numbers. They're just treats that the same as it would treat the word hello. They're just a piece of text that contains those numbers. Okay, so put it here. So this will print out 2 star 12. It's no longer a number, it's a string. Okay, it's a string that contains the characters 2 star number. Now, the next part we're going to deal with is we're going to deal with something called variables. All right. Now, it's all very well to use these numbers 4 plus 5, 2 plus 12, 10 plus 4, 12 divided by 4. All right. Now, problem with that is that's all it'll ever be. All right. What I mean by that is it'll always be 12 by 4. Can't change. It'll always be 12 divided by 4. All right. Now, these are what are called hard-coded values. You're putting in an actual value. You don't use hard-coded values that much in programming. What you use instead is you use something called variables. Okay. Now, the easiest way to explain variables to start off with is we're going to declare one. Right? Now, the first type of variable, so I'm going to type it up fully here. So I'm going to say int num is equal to 12,344. Semicolon at the end of it. Now, so a variable is made up of a few parts. So when we first create a variable, we have to give it a type. All right. Now, type goes there. Okay, so the type here is something called an int. Okay. Here we give the variable of type int. An int is a whole number. What's a whole number? No decimal places, and it can be a minimum of approx 2.4 billion. Sorry, minus. So now another thing about numbers is it doesn't differentiate between minus and plus numbers. So an int can be a minimum of minus 2.4 billion and a maximum of 2.4 billion. Now it's a prox, right? It's a prox. All right. So first you have to give a type, give the variable type int. Okay. So this guy here. So we're telling Java that this variable is going to be a whole number, and this whole number is between minus and plus 2.4 billion. Okay. We next give it a name. Which in Java we call the names references. Okay, So the reference is the name num. Okay, so the name of this variable is called num. All right, now when we're declaring it, we also use to give the variable num, we use the assignment operator, which is this guy. Sorry about that. Assignment operator, which is this guy. Now, this is not the equals to method, or this is not the equals sign. That guy, that is the assignment operator. All right, it is not equals to. That is the assignment operator. It's very important that you know that the equals to sign is something different. Okay, that is the assignment operator. What you finally then do is you then give our variable reference a value. In this case, it's 12,344. Okay, now the general rule is reference on the left hand side, value on the right hand side. All right, and they're separated by an assignment value. Now, when you're actually assigning things, you read from right to left, believe it or not. Okay, when you're assigning values to something, you read from right to left. Some languages do. English reads from left to right. Now, when you're assigning something to Java, to a variable in Java, you read from right to left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, the value is assigned to num. Okay, now you have to give it a type. Java is a tightly, I can't think of the word, loosely typed, sorry, is a tightly typed language. Okay, that means every variable you declare in Java has to be given a type. All right, there's a lot of rules in Java. Now, it makes it more difficult to learn, probably, but there's more rules. However, as you go along in it, it becomes easier. More complicated topics are easier. There is another programming language such as Python, which is a loosely typed language. You don't have to give a type. All right, it's easier to learn. However, as you progress on Python, to do more complicated things is more difficult. Where Java, more complicated things are easier to do, but it does make it more difficult to learn. All right, so every variable you create in Java is made up of a type, is made up of a name, which we call a reference. Okay, you have to have an assignment operator. You're given as a value, and it's made up of a value. Value goes on the right, reference goes on the left. Type goes before reference. Okay, so the type has to be the first thing, then the reference, then the value. But you actually read it from right to left, believe it or not. Okay, you obviously type it from left to right, but you read it from right to left. Okay, so the value 12,344 is assigned to the variable num. All right, so we come along then and we can print off num. So we can see that's printing off the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Now, the beauty of variables is you can change the values. So I can say num. Now, I don't have to give it, so I'm going to change the value of num. Okay, I'm going to change the value of num. So I'm going to give it a value of 120, comma. Now, print it off again. So print it off again. Now, so we can see here when I print off num, it's given a value of 12,344. So at this point, it has the value 12,344. I then change the value to 120. Print it off, becomes 120. Now, variables, as their name means, their values can change. All right. In actual fact, when you're programming, there's going to be very few variables whose value are not going to change. So they're the core of every computer programming language ever created. They're all built on these variables. And variable, the term, think of it in English, variable means it can change. So a variable can change. All right. Now, we only need to put the type when we're first creating our variable. All right. So we have it created here. We have to say its type int num. We don't use int after that here. Okay. You just say num is equal to 120. We don't put int num is equal to 120 again. If I did put in int num down here, you'll get an error. Okay. You'll get an error. So it's only at the start do you actually put in the type. So what is this doing here? This is initializing our variable num to be an int that has the value 12,344. Okay. This is printing out our variable, which will print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. This one here, this is changing the value of our variable num to 120. So then this prints out the new value for num, which will be 120. Okay, fine. Now, the beauty of this, of course, is that you can use variables just like you would any number. All right, so you can use now. So variables can be numbers. Variables can also be strings. Variables can be something called characters. Variables can be something called objects, which we will be covering in later lessons. All right, we're just starting off with numbers, and our first number we're going to be coming across is an int. All right, now I am going to give a new value to num. I'm going to say 4. Oops, sorry, put a semicolon at the end. Okay, so what is this? Num is set to be 4. Then I create a second new variable. I'm going to call it num2. And this is going to be 10. I have to give it a type. Notice there's a mistake because this is the first time we've mentioned num2. This is the first time we've mentioned num2. So we have to give it a type. We can then come along and print off num plus num2. What does that do? That is going to add up the value of num to the value of num2. That is 4 plus 10, which will give us 14. I can change now. The beauty of variables is, so I can go down here. I can say num multiplied by num2. So that's going to be 4 multiplied by 10, which is going to be 40. I can say 10. Oh, no, I won't do division. Okay, I won't do division quite yet. I can say num2 minus minus num. And that gives us 6. So to show you where it comes. So num plus num2, that is 10 plus 4, gives us 14. Num multiplied by num2, which is going to be 4 multiplied by 10, which is going to be 40. Num2 minus num2, which is 10, minus num is going to be 6. Now, the beauty of variables is you can change the values. So I change that to 8. So we get 8 plus 10. I can change this guy to 678. So 8 plus 678. 8 plus 678 becomes 686. 8 plus 8 multiplied by 678 becomes 5,424. 678 minus 8 becomes 670. So you can change the values of variables. All right. So I'm going to change. I'll rewrite it again. So I'll put it to 4. I'll put this guy to 10. And what am I doing here? I'm initializing the variable num2 to be an int and have a value of 10. So this is going to be 4 plus 10, which is 14. I'm going to print off 14. Next one is 4 multiplied by 10, which is equal to 40, and we'll print off 40. Oops. And the next one, which is 10 minus 4, which is 6, and we'll print off 6. Okay, I'm going to change the values of num and num2. So I'm going to say num is going to be equal to 25. I'm going to say num2 is going to be 100. Okay, so copy and paste these guys. Copy and paste is your friend, by the way. Okay, so take that off. Copy and paste is, you will be using a lot of copy and pasting. So we go give new value to num of 25. This one here. Give new value to num of 100. So 25 plus 100 will be 125. 25 multiplied by 100 will be 2,500. Will be 2,500. And last but by no means least, 100 minus 25 will be 75. Okay. To prove that that works, we can see here 1 to 5. Oops, sorry about that. So we have our, oops, wrong one. This guy here, 125. This guy here, 2,500. This guy here, 75. All right. Now, so we can see how to print off a piece of text. We can see how to print off numbers. we can see that we can print off numbers as pieces of text. We've then come to variables. Variables are the core of every programming language, and they can store any value you want. Now you have to give it a type, you have to give it a name, and you give it a value. It's called initializing the variable. You can then assign new values to all of those variables. So it starts off at that, then we to 120, then to 4, then to 25. Similarly with num2, I said it's going to be 10, then I give it a new value of 100. All right. Now, if you have a print statement and you want to display a piece of text and let's say a number, all right. So here we're going to see a symbol we're familiar with and that we've used already, the plus symbol, how it can mean different things if it's in different locations. Okay, so I'm going to type up a print statement. So I am going to see our new number is. Now, so we can see when we do num plus num2, that's treated as simple the addition operator. However, if you use this guy with a string, it's no longer the addition operator. It's what's called a concatenator. Okay, so we can see here, okay, this is not addition. Okay, this guy here is not addition. Okay, this is a concatenator. Now concatenate means join. So you're joining up a string to a number. All right. Now when you have a string, so this is a string, this is a number. Now believe it or not, what actually happens is that the whole lot of that then becomes a string. So that, what does that print off? Let me just show you. Our new number is 45. Okay. So you can also put in variables. Let me just show you here. So I'm going to say, put in here, our variable num is, put in a space, I go plus num. Now it's not adding them up, it's a concatenator, prints off 25. Okay, why? Because that's the last value, so the value was 25. Sorry about that. So that will print off simply our new number is 45, grand. This one here. So it takes the last value that was given to num, which was 25. And so what does it print off? It prints off 25. Now, so put it in here. Using the plus symbol, which is this guy. Keyboard, where are you? Using the plus symbol after a piece, after a string in a print statement will cause the plus symbol to become a concatenator. Okay, concatenator. It means it joins up that. It joins up that to that. Okay, this one here joins up that to that. So it prints off the value of num. What is the value of num? So put it in here. This will print out our variable num is 25. Okay, now when you use the concatenator, not the plus symbol, when you use the concatenator, that turns all of that into a string. Okay, if you use the plus symbol with a string, it turns everything inside there to the string. So num becomes the string 25, not the number 25. To prove that it doesn't, let me just show you. I'm going to go here, two numbers in a print statement. So I'm going to go plus 45 plus 60. Now if I just had 45 plus 60 in, so if I just had this in the print statement, that would print off 105. However, when I do this, it prints off two numbers in a print, 45, 60. It's not the number for, 4,560. It's just a piece of text that contains the numbers 4, 5, 6, 0. All right. So, hold this print. So the numbers here are not are still strings. Okay, so you can't add them, all right, because the plus symbol here is treated as a concatenator. Whenever you have a plus symbol after a string, it's going to be treat the whole lot of it as a string. All right, the whole lot is going to be treated as a string. So if I put in, now it doesn't matter if you put in variables or a hard-coded number. So I'm going to put in, let's say, 2 int variables in a print len. That's actually what it is. So if I go plus num 2. Now what's the last value of num? The last value of num is 25. And what's the last value of num 2? It's 100. All right, so it's not going to print off 125. It's going to print off 25, 100. Let me just show you. So you can see here, it's printing off 25, 100. So what does this guy print off? So I'll put it up here again. So this will print out two numbers in a print, 45, 60, and this will print off out 2 int variables in a print ln, and we have a space. It's going to be 25100. Okay. Now, so the question is, I want to add up these two numbers, and I want to put them in a print statement. So what do we do? What we do is we put them in brackets. Okay, I want to get 125. I want them to be treated as numbers. So what do I do? All right, so I'm going to go 2 variables, add it up, gives us. So I put in a plus symbol. Now I put in another opening and closing braces. Now you can see Eclipse does it automatically. All right, now I go num plus num 2. You can have braces inside braces. Now when you have multiple braces, you are going to be coming across stuff like this. All right, you're going to have braces inside braces. All right, the general rule is with braces is you always do the inner braces first. Okay, you always do the inner braces first. So we can see here we go plus, and then we have an inner brace that contains num and num2. So what happens to that? That does the inside part first, and it treats them as numbers. Okay, it adds them first, so it's going to go 1, 2, 5. Then it concatenates that onto this guy here. So it adds up the two numbers first. It adds up 25 plus 100, which will give us 125. It then concatenates. So you do what's inside the bracket first before you do anything else. All right? Because remember, everything here, this is our outer bracket. All right? It goes from here to here. You do the inner bracket first. And what does the inner bracket has? It has two numbers inside it. 25 plus 100. So it adds up those two numbers and it gives us 1, 2, 5. We then go to the outer bracket. The first thing we do here, we do the plus symbol. The plus symbol here is not adding it up, it's concatenating. It's concatenating what? 1, 2, 5. So it prints off two variables added up gives us 1, 2, 5. Now I'm going to put in a comment, which is from the other screen here. Put it in here, and obviously that is not right because it is 25 plus 100, which gives us 1, 2, 5. All right. Now, so I'll just mark that for myself. Okay. If you place numbers and the calculation, another set of brackets, this calculation retrieves numbers and then add it to our text. The rule of thumb across all Java is to do inner brackets first. All right. Now, we will be covering something called functional programming in this. That becomes extremely important when we're doing functional programming. All right. So we will be covering functional programming in this course. All right. Now, so another way, rather than putting in the calculation inside here, another way you can do it is to take the calculation outside the print statement entirely. So what we do is, now, so I'm just going to put the values for num. Num is going to be 25. Num2 is going to be 100. All right. Now, we can do that, but usually what we do is we create another variable. We create another variable and we do a calculation to get that value. So I'm going to create a new variable called sum, and it's going to be equal to, oops, that should be num2. It's going to be equal to num plus num2. Okay, so that's going to be 25 plus 100, which is going to be 125. So sum is going to be 125. So we're going to go here with our print statement. More space. Now, so I'm going to go that guy there. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to make it a little more complicated. The number now plus num plus, and the number plus num2 plus is, sorry, I should say plus the number is plus sum. Now, a concatenator, it's glue. That's what it is. Okay? So think of a concatenator as glue. So what are we doing here? We have the string number. Oops, I have to go thin again. Get rid of everything. So this is the string. And then we're going to concatenate num onto it. Num is 25. And you want to glue in a string onto it. So anywhere you glue anything onto something else, you have to put in a plus symbol. So you start off the string, then I glue the number onto it, which becomes a string, becomes 25. Then I'm going to glue another string onto that, plus the number. Then I'm going to glue the num2 onto it, which is 100. Then I'm going to glue the word is onto that, put in a space. Then I put another glue in there, and sum, which is 125. So this will print off the number 25 plus the number 100 is 125. So print it off. The number 25, now we can see we don't have a space there. Put in a space. So the number. I'll just run it again. Right, so we can see the number. That. So the number. Glue num, which is 25, onto it. Plus the number, which we glue onto there. Num2, which we glue onto there. Is, which is that guy there. Sum, which is that guy there. Alright, so we have a print statement that is made up of all those concatenators. Think of it as glue. You're gluing num onto this number. Then you're gluing plus the number onto num. Then you're gluing num2 onto number. Then you're gluing is onto num2. Then you're gluing sum onto is. You don't put a plus at the end because you're not gluing anything onto it. Alright? It gives an error. Should anyway. Okay, so put a plus at the, because you don't put on glue when you're gluing nothing onto it. Alright? So if I run it, the number 25 plus the number 100 is 125. Alright? So I'll just put it in here. We create a new variable called sum of type int, and we give it a value by adding up num and num2. Now the beauty of that is as well is if we change the value of num and num2, it also changes these values here. Well, that means sum is going to be those two numbers added up together, which is 1565. Okay, so we create a new variable called sum of type int and give it a value by adding up num and num2. So the values cascade. Alright, you change num to 1000, you change it to whatever you want. A bit big numbers, so we'll make them slightly smaller. I'll make this 20, and I'll make this 5. So we get the number 20 plus the number of 5 is 25. Okay. Now I'll just pause this for a minute.